I made a film, for those of you that don't know, called Paul Williams Still Alive. And I made the film because when I was a kid, I was a huge Paul Williams fan. I used to see him on The Tonight Show. After my parents fell asleep, I'd stay up and I'd see him on game shows and I'd see him on Mike Douglas. And I really connected to Paul because he was so funny and irreverent, but I also connected to so many of the songs that he wrote. I didn't know as a kid I was connecting to songs about depression like Rainy Days and Mondays, or that I was connecting to lyrics like Day After Day, I face a world of strangers where I don't belong, I'm not that strong. But at 11 years old, that's how I felt. So first of all, one of the first early gigs Paul got was he got hired to do a bank commercial.
I'll talk about a lucky break in metaphor and actuality. There's a great writer named Tony Asher. Tony Asher wrote the lyrics to God Only Knows, a wonderful writer, worked a lot with Brian Wilson. And he got the job to write a commercial for a bank called Crocker Bank. He broke his hand skiing, lucky break. And he called Roger Nichols, who was my partner writing at A&M Records. We were staff writers, cranking out songs for whoever would record them. Nothing making it into the singles category. Never hearing our music on the air. And Tony called and he said, I'm on pain pills, I can't move my hand, I can't do this. I've recommended you guys. So it was a young couple getting married, riding off into the sunset after the reception, and said, you got a long way to go, we'd like to help you get there to the Crocker Bank. I sang it, Roger and I wrote it in the afternoon, it was We've Only Just Begun. So
You want to sing a little?
Sing a little of you know how it goes? We've only just begun to live. White lace and promises, a kiss for luck and we're on our way.
That's great.
Well, they kiss in the commercial. We had to catch the kiss and all. So wrote the song. I get a phone call from Richard Carpenter. There's a great scene in the film from the movie about the Carpenters where he can't sleep and he's watching the commercial and he goes, wow, that could be a hit song. And his mom says, here, take one of these. It'll help you sleep. And what is it? What is it? Oh, it's something called a Quaalude. Evidently, it'll help you sleep.
Yeah. It's really interesting that so many songs that mean so much to me and mean a lot to other people started as paid gigs.
Yeah, well, first of all, I love movies. I was an actor, before I started writing songs, I was an actor, and I played kids. Looked like a kid till you put me next to a real kid, and I looked like a kid with a hangover. It was, and it was difficult to cast. I mean, the only times I ever got cast in movies, and there were a couple of big ones, was when they needed somebody over 18 to play somebody under 18. So I wound up playing like a 13-year-old when I was in my 20s in The Loved One. And then 2 years later, just like that, I got a movie called The Chase, where I worked several months on it. And I played a 15-year-old movie starring Marlon Brando, and Robert Redford, and Robert Duvall, and little Paulie Williams. And it was like, this is going to make my career. This is going to let me be the star I know God wants me to be. The natural leading man that will emerge. It happened for Mickey Rooney. It will happen for me. And the movie came out, and I'm basically not in it. I have like 2 lines. He's going to need a better lawyer than your daddy, and you don't build a career or out of something like that. But what happened that was important on that film is that I shared a dressing room with a guy that had a guitar, and I picked up his guitar and I started kind of plunking, and he said, "That's a Martin. Don't touch it. Go get your own." I went out and I bought. This shows you how much I knew about music at the time. I bought a really nice little tiny saddle guitar, and I quickly painted it with flowers and everything because I thought it would look better, totally changing the sound. But I started doodling. I became a chronic doodler, and I found a place to put all this stuff in the center of my chest, which rolled out as very, very simple, what I call ouch mommy songs. They were, the codependent anthems. I'm sorry, it's what I wrote. I won't last today without you is not really a healthy thought. Think about it, So.
And of course, the Muppet movie, which produced The Rainbow Connection, which I don't even care if everybody knows you sing The Rainbow Connection, but the song that I was hoping you'd sing a little of was I'm Going to Go Back There Someday, which is such a heartbreaking song.
You know what? The story of this song is Kenny Asher and I were, met with Jim Henson, and Frank Oz and Jerry Jewell, who wrote the script, were sitting in my den up above the Hollywood, up above the Strip, and going through, what's the movie going to be about? Well, let's do a road picture. I mean, it was literally sitting down, okay, we'll start out with Kermit in the swamp, and an agent rose up in a rowboat and says, they're looking for frogs wanting to become rich and famous. Okay, blah, blah, like that. So I said to Jim, and it's one of the lines that I will never, one of the moments I will never forget in my life. I said to Jim Henson, we're really excited about this, but I won't just surprise you with this. I will, as I'm working on the songs with Kenny, we'll get them to you so you can see what you think. And he went, oh no, I'll hear them in the studio. I trust you guys. In the world we live in today especially, to find that kind of creative freedom and that kind of trust is just unheard of. And there's a scene in the movie where Gonzo and all the Muppets break down in the middle of the desert on their way to Hollywood, and they're out there under the stars at night. And so Kenny and I thought, you know, what if Gonzo just has this moment of looking at the sky and it reflects on it? And so we wrote this. This looks familiar, vaguely familiar, almost unreal yet. It's too soon to feel yet, close to my soul, and yet so far away. I'm going to go back there someday. The third verse. There's not a word yet for old friends who just met. Part heaven, part space. And have I found my place? You can just visit, but I plan to stay. And I'm going to go back there someday. Now the wonderful thing that happens with this movie is I sing the song for Jim Henson and he goes, you know, that's really touching. Wouldn't it be amazing if Gonzo had some sort of realistic, you know, moment in life that kind of inspires this reflection? What if we do like, if he buys a bunch of helium balloons and experiences flight, we could do like a state fair scene. So we wrote a state fair scene where he meets Piggy, where Bob Hope plays an ice cream salesman, where Richard Pryor plays a balloon salesman, where there's all this activity that was inspired by him saying, you know what, that song deserves to be in there. Understand, there was never a moment with Jim Henson where he said, write for children, write for people, you know. I don't write for gender, I don't write for age. And part of that I learned from the brilliance of Jim Henson.
Wow.